Have you got a nuisance alarm system that's driving you mad? Maybe it's triggering on a specific zone all the time and you just can't stop it. Maybe you're not using it because of that, or you're always having to omit that specific zone, leaving your house or business vulnerable. Well, then I've got you covered in this video. Look, I know a faulty alarm system can be a nightmare. It can make you lose faith in the system and make you not want to use it anymore. But with it being an electrical item, there's just a few simple steps you can go through to diagnose and correct the fault. And I'm going to share every single one of them with you in this video. Now, it's very important to do every single one of these tests. Don't just do one and think you've got it and then call it a day. You need to do every single one to make sure that you fix all the problems with the potential sensor. We're going to be working on a motion sensor today, because sometimes there can be more than one fault. Even if you're just planning to get an engineer out to do the checks for you and go through the stages, it'll be really handy just to know what they are. So then you can talk to him or her about it, and just go through with them what they've done. And just before we get started on this video, to let you know, in case you are thinking of upgrading your current alarm system to a smart wireless system, I do have my own security brand out called the Godfather Security System. It's a wireless DIY security alarm that's all app controlled, and it means that you can take complete control of your own security. We launch about mid-June, it's about 6 weeks from now, 2025. I'll leave the waiting list in the bio. If you sign up, you get an exclusive discount code. If it's already past that point and you're watching this video, I'll leave the website in there and you can take a look. Right, the things you will need. You'll need a multimeter to do the testing, a couple of very basic hand tools, just a Phillips screwdriver and a terminal, and a pair of snips. Let's get cracking. So for this demonstration, we're going to be using a Veritas 8 alarm panel. We're going to be doing it with a demonstration on a motion sensor that's sitting just here. To begin, you need to make sure you've actually got the right zone that you're looking at. And what I mean by this is I have a note here saying zone 1 is the Hall PIR. You might have something similar where you've got a list of zones and they potentially correlate to the areas of detection. I'm pretending this one is a Hall PIR for this demonstration. However, I have come across it many times where the list is incorrect. So you might see an alarm event and you've had 5 alarm events on zone 4, for example. Zone 4 says it's the kitchen PIR. So maybe you go and swap the kitchen PIR and you can't see anything wrong and you're scratching your head and you don't know why. You need to do a walk test on your system and make sure that you get the correct zones to what correlate to your list. Or if you don't have a list, this will mean you can make one. To make sure that you're actually investigating the right area, believe me, I have had that fault before, and I've had it when it's been written down wrong, and I've been looking at a certain zone for 40 minutes, not knowing what's going on, why it's going wrong, until I think, uh-oh, maybe I'm not even looking at the right detector. So do a walk test first on your system, which you'll be able to find how to do in the user manual, and then make a list of the zones and what areas they protect. Once you've done your walk test and you're sure of your zone areas, you then need to go into your event log. Now this differs depending on the panel, but if you go into the user menu, if you go into the user manual, you'll be able to see how to go into the event log. For this panel, I'm going to put in my user code and press program. Now if I press 4.1, I can see there zone 1 is flashing. Okay, so I know my last alarm event was on zone 1. 4.2, zone alarm before that was in the hallway, zone 1 again. 4.3 is zone 1, and that is Hall PIR has went again, meaning that I can see I've got a recurring fault on zone 1 there in the Hall PIR. So now I've diagnosed which zone number it is and what area that correlates to. So we're already narrowing it down. Now the next thing you're going to want to do is a visual inspection of the area around this detector. Just make sure it isn't covered in cobwebs or anything like that, or if there's anything in that area that's causing false alarms, such as party balloons. It's quite a common one. You've got balloons that are in helium and they're popping in front of the sensor. People don't know why their alarm's going off, and it's something simple like that. So you might just have something in the area that's causing false alarms, or maybe the type of sensor isn't the right type of sensor for the area, such as a normal PIR in the conservatory, or you have a window that's been left open and it's blowing wind in and it's triggering the alarm. But if you've now gone through all that and you can see that there's no impairments on the sensor and there's nothing wrong, or there's nothing that seems wrong with the environment, the next stage is you need to get screwdriver and we need to open up this panel. Now when we do this, it's going to trigger a tamper alarm. When the tamper alarm triggers on your alarm panel, you're going to want to put your code in to cancel it and silence the alarm. So we know our fault is on zone 1. which is our zone 1 cable that's just here. But before we go looking at the actual cable there, we want to look at the control panel battery. Often overlooked, but if your control panel battery is over 5 years old, even if it's running at the correct voltage, it can still be causing problems and you need to change that, okay? No older than 5 years, they need to be changed every 5 years. Then even if it's under 5 years, the first thing you want to do is get your multimeter, turn to DC, put your leads on the end of the battery and make sure you're getting the correct voltage. So there I have 13.3 volts. That's absolutely fine. And just check your battery leads to make sure the panel is pushing out the correct voltage. So one in there and one in there. I can see 13.35. Not sure if you can see that, but it says 13.35. So I know the battery leads are working and they're going to the backup battery and they're working fine. Now to make life easier, just put this out of the way for the time being. The next step you need to do is checking that your connections going into your terminals are solid and secure. So just give them a little tug, pull them, make sure they're okay and they aren't loose. If that's loose and that's not getting a good connection, it can cause false alarms. Now the next thing we need to do is check the ohms reading, which is the resistance of the cables that are going out to that sensor. You do that by taking one leg out. You don't need to take both of them. You can just take the one leg out, pull the cable out there, turn it to your resistance reading on your multimeter, and this will probably be about 14 ohms if I had to guess, and it should be steady. If I put that there so you can see it, 10.4 ohms. Okay, very normal. And it was staying solid. You never really see a detector above, say, 25 ohms max. It's unusual if it is. If it's over 25 ohms or it's jumping around, there's a problem either with the cable or with the sensor. We know now that at this end, where we are, our battery is fine, our cables are secure, and our ohms reading, which is our resistance going out from the panel, what it's getting from the sensor, is no problem at all. Now we're going to go to our sensor. So if I open the sensor up here, the first thing to check when you've opened this up is just pop the circuit board out and make sure there's no spiders in the back. They can actually get inside the sensor and they can cause false alarms by just walking across the front of that sensor there. Pop that in. We know there's no spider in there. Now on the sensor, we want to make sure there isn't any volt drop. We've got 13.36 volts coming from testing the voltage of the DC voltage at the sensor. So we've got no problem in terms of volt drop there. We know the ohms resistance is okay and the detector is relatively new. So that would all point towards there not being an issue with the actual sensor, and our cables is okay because our resistance is 10.6 or 10.5, whatever it was. If that was a problem, we'd know because it would be jumping around. Next thing we'll want to do, go to continuity check on your multimeter and put it across the normally closed just to make sure you're getting a closed circuit. If your resistance was wrong or very high or jumping around on these cables, you may have a cable fault. Now, you can get cable faults from something like carpet fitters who go down the back of carpets but with their Stanley blade and things, and they can splice a cable and cut the cable or just slightly cut the cable, and that can mean you can get sporadic false alarms. One thing you can potentially do for this is if you've got an 8-core cable, you may have 2 spare cores inside the motion sensor. So you can get those 2 spare cores and do a continuity test. And you'll do that by getting these 2 cables, cutting them back, putting them together temporarily. Oh, ow. Twist them together. Now back at the panel end, get those 2 spare cores, again, cut them back and just do a continuity test. Okay, we're getting very low resistance. It's actually not registering anything, but we're getting the tone so we know that those cables have a good connection, which means these 2 cores would be fine to swap. We'd get these 2, the brown and orange in this case, take out the blue and yellow, which may have had a very high resistance, and use these 2 cores for the zone where the blue and yellow is. You swap that over and that should eliminate your false alarms. So if your battery was too old, swap it. Check the resistance on your cables. If the resistance is wrong, swap them over for 2 different cores. Now when you put the new 2 cores in, you will still want to test them again once they're actually inside the zone, just by taking one leg out. And if you once again get a very high resistance, that means there's a problem with the sensor and you need to change the sensor, but you know that your cable is okay. So you've tested the cable is fine, but once you put the cable into the zone, you get a high resistance, then therefore you're getting false alarms, means you need to change the sensor. There's a fault with the sensor. If you're getting a high resistance across all the cable cores, that means you've got a cable fault and you'll need to potentially do something to rectify that, like run another cable. Now, we have went through the things we can physically check on this panel. One of these, if there was an issue, should have reared its head. Now, if you test the cables, if you test the battery and the battery is fine, you test the cables and they're fine, you test the power and the power is fine as well, and the detector is triggering okay on a walk test, then it sounds like you've got an intermittent fault on that sensor and you need to swap the PIR anyway because it's triggering when it shouldn't do. As long as you have no environmental factors that you can see, you need a new sensor. But there's no point swapping a sensor if it's a cable fault, because you're just going to get the same problem again. Or a battery fault, again, you'll just have the same issue. So you really need to narrow down what is causing the problem. If you do get a new sensor, I do have a video on my YouTube, I'll link it in this video as well, showing you how to fit, mount and wire a new motion sensor. There is one other area that we haven't talked about that is in, again, the environmental aspect really, that I've come across on one occasion. If you have cables that go up into the loft, if any of those cables are going over a TV aerial, that can cause interference and that can give you false alarms. Remember, I was about a year or two into the job and I was sent out to this job. I couldn't figure out what was wrong. I'd been back about 4 times. Then my dad came out, he had a look, and through experience, he was able to find the problem in about 15 minutes. He saw that there was a cable in a loft going over the TV aerial. He took that cable off and mounted it correctly. It's because the staples had come out and then they never had a false alarm again. One other thing that I've come across once that just still deserves a mention is a zone fault on the actual PCB board. Now, I've only come across it once where I couldn't find a fault and I took it out of the particular zone and put it into another zone and it worked fine and we didn't have any false alarms. But those 2 examples are very, very rare. So now we've been through the stages together on what to go through to check what the problems are with your alarm system. So you need to check your backup battery, you need to check the cable, you need to check the detector itself, any environmental factors that could be there causing the false alarms. And in checking those things, the fault will have reared its ugly head. I hope I've explained the process well enough. A couple of times during filming, I was not 100% sure if it was going to be good enough to actually get my point across and explain exactly what I'm saying. So if you're a little bit unsure or haven't explained something in depth enough for you, leave it in the comments. I'd be more than happy to run through it in more detail. And just a reminder about the Godfather security system, the links are in the bio. Maybe you'd be interested to know how to wire a panel from scratch. If so, check out this video here.